Yo, good day, gents, and welcome to another episode of Father's Fire. My name's Jody Sedrick, and every week we get together to explore the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And yes, this past week was another week of fun for the Sedrick house. Judy, my oldest son Devin, and my daughter Cynthia drove down to Orem, Utah to watch my daughter Kaylani and her team at UVU play against Sam Houston in a women's volleyball tournament, and it was so much fun. It was a little aggravating because they started out and they were down 2 games and they fought back, came all the way back to the 5th game. And that 5th game, for to win the match, they were 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 15, 15, 16, and then they lost at 15, 17. And it just was one of these nail biters, and you're just like going, oh my gosh, girls, come on, get it together. You can win this. You should win this game. And, that emotional heart attack of wanting your girls to win, wanting your team to win. And, some days you just have a rough game. And all the pieces don't fall into place, but the key is learning how to pull together, regroup, take a look at what you did or didn't do. And it's always fun to talk to Kaylani after, because she's like, yeah, you know what, I wasn't as good as I could have been here. Our team as a whole, we weren't as polished as we normally are, and we just missed some great opportunities. And I appreciated that perspective of recognizing that they could have done better, but also giving themselves the grace to go, yeah, you know what, we had a bad weekend, we can regroup, we can reset, and next week when we go to Seattle, we can take on Seattle and play much better. And it's just fun. I love watching the process, and it was so much fun because, Judy, Devin, and Cinch and I got to drive down, had a beautiful drive down from Boise to Salt Lake, and we were listening to a podcast together, spooky stories, and it just was a great time. And then to spend time with Kaylani. Plus, I had the bonus of my good friend Tom Nixon, who he and I actually served a mission in Oakland working with the Vietnamese refugees back when I was 19, 20. He actually recently moved to Provo, Utah, and he was able to come to the game, and he and I were able to reconnect. We were able to talk about our kids. He was talking about his grandkids and just kind of our life over the past 30 years. And it just was awesome to connect with a good friend, a good brother, and have that experience of watching my daughter play together and talk about his kids playing sports and what that did for his family and what it's done for our family. And it's just a great opportunity. And I would encourage you men that you take advantage of every single moment with your kids. If they're into music, go to their concerts, or their recitals. If they're into drama, go to their plays. If they're into music, go watch every one of their jazz concerts or their choral concerts. If they're into sports, go to their sporting events, maybe even coach them, and just be their biggest fan, be their biggest coach, but also be, someone that's invested in their success, and making sure that you're building character, you're building opportunities and providing opportunities for them to grow. It's just so amazing. If your kid's into astronomy, go to science fairs and go to observatories and go out in the mountains or the desert if you have it near you, and go look at the stars. I mean, make time for your kids. As I was driving home, I was thinking about what I could share with you guys this week. I'd hoped to have a guest, but he wasn't able to meet with me. And then, just getting busy with volleyball season every single weekend is consumed by Judy and I trying to get to the games. Wednesday night, we took the boat out for one last time with the kids, and we just had a great time, and it's just so important that you make time for those moments, because I'm telling you guys, when you first have your kids and you hold that little baby in your arms, you blink and they're 12. You blink again and they're graduating from high school. And now, dude, I'm afraid to blink because all of a sudden my kids are going to be married and they're going to have grandkids, and I'm going to be, trying to keep up with everybody. But, it's just amazing. So you got to take time and create those moments with your kids because they go so fast. But as I was thinking about what I could share with you guys, I had an experience this morning that I think is really common for us men, especially if we have teenage kids or kids that are in college. It might even happen with your wife. So this morning I got up and I had some early morning meetings from the house, and then I needed to get into the office. And I was running a little bit behind. My wife had gone out to the grocery store. She came home and got some, unloaded the groceries, and then I took the car and was heading off to Boise. And then I forgot to tell my son goodbye and give him a hug because he's heading to Seattle. And so I turned around, drove back, and ran into the house, gave him a big hug, and just said, "Hey, son, it was so great to see you. I'm so glad that you came to spend the last couple of weeks with us," and gave him a hug, and then headed out. And this time, as I'm backing up my car and starting to drive off, what happens? The fuel light goes on and the little fuel warning light, boom, bing, 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 goes off. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta get gas too. And come on guys, I know you've all had that experience. You're running out the door, you're in a hurry, you jump in your car, and all of a sudden there's no gas. And you're like, oh man, I can't believe my kid did this to me. They borrowed the car last night, went out on a date, went out with the kids, and I told them, make sure you bring back the car filled with gas. And what do I get? Nothing. And even sometimes, like my wife, she came back and, clearly she didn't have time. She was racing between us working out, and she had to get work, but she was trying to race to get the groceries so that we'd have something for dinner tonight, and came back and she just didn't have time. And I came back. But as I was thinking about that, how many times have we as dads set an expectation, or we've set a rule in our house? So like, if you borrow the car, you got to bring back the car with as much gas, if not more gas in it, because you use the car. You need to be responsible for taking care of the vehicle as well as replacing the fuel that you use, so that you have not only the expectation but the experience of owning your use of something, that you're responsible for taking care of it and you're not leaving it just to dad. And yes, there is a place for that. We need to teach our kids responsibility. We need to set guidelines for them. We need to say, you know what, these are the things that are expected in our house. The problem is that so many times when those expectations are not met, what is our go-to response? So many times, we come out, we see the gas on empty, and what do? We instantly get angry. We instantly go back or come home from the end of the day, and we wait for our kids, just waiting to bring down the hammer. And it's like, why didn't you fill up the gas? You know the rule, right? And so all of a sudden, our tone, our demeanor, our actions are condescending. They're domineering. They're not kind and gentle and going, hey man, I went out this morning, I saw that the car didn't have gas, what happened? And giving the kid space to go, yeah dad, you know what, I got running behind, I know I had a curfew at 12, and rather than miss the curfew, I didn't want to disappoint you, so I just went straight home. I'm sorry, I'll do better next time. But so many times, instead of allowing our kids to go, yeah, I messed up, yeah, I'm sorry, we come in with just this demanding, domineering presence that's going, why did you mess up? Why did you forget? Why didn't you obey my rules? Why didn't you follow, the guidelines that I've set, right? And we're coming into it with the attitude of not only that our expectations weren't met, but we're coming into it like you failed, right? And our very demeanor and our very tone is tearing down their hearts. And it's actually what it's doing is putting a wall up between you and them. It's making them become defensive instead of being penitent and recognizing that they could have and maybe should have done something different. But by the way that we're coming in as this force of expectation and being disappointed in what they're doing, being verbally disappointed to them, we're not setting a stage where they can own that experience, where they can't talk through it and express what happened, because a lot of times they have a legitimate reason, but we're rushing so fast towards the expectation and bringing down the hammer that we're not allowing them space to explain what happened. We're not allowing them an opportunity to go, you know what, Dad, you're right, and I will do better next time. I'm sorry, but this is what happened. And on those rare occasions when I've actually done that, man, it's amazing the conversations that come about, because I noticed in my own self that a lot of times I put fire on the situation because of the way I'm coming at it. I'm not coming at it from a place of empathy. I'm not coming at it from a place of understanding. I'm coming at it from the perspective of, you didn't obey me, you didn't follow the guidelines that we've set, and you were disrespecting me, you were disobedient, and so guess what? Here come the consequences. And I wonder how many of you men are shutting down your kids and they're afraid to talk to you, because when it's not important, when it's less important, like, hey, the gas wasn't filled or you were a little late, and you, instead of giving an opportunity to have a discussion, say, hey, what happened? You're bringing down the hammer. And Judy and I had a phrase that we often said to our kids all the time: are you building up or are you tearing down? And it would always be when the kids were kind of bickering or they were giving each other a hard time and it started to get a little cutting. You guys know it. Sometimes that sarcasm that we say as husbands or as fathers, we're being sarcastic with the idea of, oh, we're being funny. But let's be honest, a lot of times you're cutting to the core, right? You're using sarcasm, you're using humor as a way to cut down, to be biting, instead of just being a little bit more loving, understanding, and kind, and giving each other space to have a communication with each other about what happened. And it takes discipline, right? It takes you biting your tongue, because how many of you guys have gotten in the car and you see what has happened, the fuel's down, or you go out there and the oil hasn't been checked and you're like, or the water's low and you're like, gosh, how many times do I have to tell you, right? That's the immediate thing you do, is you get on the phone or you send a text message, and your go-to response is one of unkindness. And I've been asking myself, when I'm talking to my wife, or am I talking to my children who are now adults, is my tone, is my demeanor, is it building up or is it tearing down? Because a lot of times we may be saying the right words, but our demeanor is destroying hearts. It's destroying confidence. It's destroying the trust and the confidence that they should have in you. But because of the way that you're talking to them, that you are straining that bridge of love. You are straining that bridge of communication, because your demeanor, your tone is so unkind that it is not matching the words coming out of your mouth. So maybe we need to do a better job of making sure that our very presence is uplifting, that our words are uplifting, that they're building confidence, they're building love, they're building communication, they're building understanding. Because it's easy to get snarky. It's easy to bite back. It's easy to snap. And I think a lot of you guys' relationships with your wife and your children are strained because your response is snippy. And there's a lot of times where Judy calls me out on, it's like, why are you talking to me that way? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. That's not the way I was trying to come across. I'm sorry, right? And she's really good of calling me out on the carpet. And it's good. You need to have that kind of relationship where you can go, you know what? Maybe now's not the time, or whoa, baby, you've gone way overhand, or you know what, the way you're talking to the kids, yeah, why don't you let me take over? Tag, I'm in, you're out. And Judy and I had to do that, sometimes when our kids were teens. I mean, both of us, we would get into that. I mean, we've all been there where you're in that heated, moment with your kids, and all of a sudden you're escalating, the kids escalating, you're escalating, and all of a sudden, you're on the edge of an explosion. And Judy would come in and go, sounds like you could use me tag teaming in, and I'd step away and she would take over, and vice versa. Sometimes you got to have that kind of that barometer of where you are, and hopefully you're developing it within yourself more and more, because now that I've been married for 32 years and my kids are older now, dude, I do a better job of self-checking, but that doesn't mean I get it right all the time. I still have to go, you know what? Don't say anything. Just don't say anything. And maybe just go, all right, what can I do to help you? What would you have me do to help this situation? And it's amazing how when you ask, what can I do? How that can turn the tables of the conversation. So anyway, just a funny little thing that is very real in a lot of our lives, especially as our kids are getting to be older, they're becoming more independent, and you're trying to set the guidelines, you're trying to set the expectations, and you're also trying to set the circumstances. And sometimes, and this has been hard for me to learn, is that sometimes initially when you think the circumstance should be very severe and very harsh, when sometimes what your kid or your wife really needs is, you know what, I know you had a tough day, what's going on? I'm sorry you're responding. Clearly something's on your heart, something's on your mind, and it's causing, a little bit of friction. What can I do to help? And man, when we come at every situation with the perspective of, I love you, I'm here for you, what can I do to build you up? What can I do to make it easier for you? All of a sudden, everything else kind of starts taking care of itself, because they see that you're invested in them, that you're caring for them, and that you're there for them. And that's such a critical thing. Guys, I hope this has been helpful. Hopefully it's given you something to think about, how you're responding in those situations where your expectations weren't met and you're running a little late and you're a little frazzled, and maybe you need to bite your tongue a little bit and regroup and go, you know what, I need to reset my mind, reset my heart, and move forward in a positive direction that will be uplifting for both me, my kids, my wife, and our family. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. Hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I'm looking forward to actually have some guests lined up, so hopefully you'll get some conversation from other dads and perspective. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining me every week. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we will check you same time, same bat channel, just next week, right here on Father's Fire. See ya!